Let them come.
Rupert, thank you so much for talking with us this afternoon. Of course, we're talking about Snow White and the Huntsman, a great new film that you've just directed. When you were first handed the script, how did you feel about that? Because you were the only producer offered the role of doing that.
It was quite a departure from what I was looking for. So it was at first I'd always entertained the idea of a fairy tale because I love the world and I love the opportunity to create the world. And I think the script had so many kind of revelatory ideas, including the Huntsman, that it was just very exciting to, as a kind of a building block, really, to create, to go on a journey with the film and to create the world that you see now.
And being your debut feature-length project, what an exciting one to come on with. Was it a different approach for you going from commercials and those shorter projects into something feature-length?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you learn the same, it's the same skill set. You know, every time you do a different commercial, you have to learn something different, or you end up learning something different because you have to in order to get that commercial done. So this was similar, you know, I'd never worked as thoroughly with actors and performances, but, you know, I just kind of really concentrated on story and performance, and I think that's really what drives the film. Everything else kind of blossoms out of that, but it's really about story and character.
And what were the key considerations for you bringing such a classic, such a well-known story to life?
To honour it, to not mess with the fundamentals of it too much. I mean, we were changing a lot of the latter perceptions of it, but we kept very close to the, you know, to the original story, and I think that story has lasted so long that you shouldn't really mess with it too much.
Was it a difficult process taking all the symbolism and making it relevant to a modern audience?
I think it was the fun bit, you know. That was one of the challenges. How do you retell the mirror? How do you retell the apple? So all of those kind of themes and ideas, the drops of blood, you know, you just start to play with and start to build as you go.
Talking of the drops of blood, I heard a story actually, like everyone says that you pour your blood, your sweat and your tears into any project that you make. You did that. That was your blood that was drawn for some of those scenes.
Yeah, it was my blood. We had, we were shooting on a very high-speed camera that does 2,500 frames per second, so everything, you know, you can capture a bullet in the air. And when we were doing the drops of blood, they were using fake blood, and it just looked like raspberry jam. So I got one of the special effects guys just to pull a few cc's, a couple of syringes of my blood, and I gave them to the, you know, to the guy on the drip rig. But the problem was the lights were very strong, so that when real blood congeals so quickly. So, but you know, we got the shot. It looks like blood, and
it looked very good.
Yeah, no, blood's got a very, very distinct kind of mercurial quality to it, which is very hard to replicate.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is fairest of them all?
You are the fairest, but there is another destined to surpass you.
With the strong lineup of actors that you had on this film, I imagine there was so many exciting moments with the cast, with the crew, with just the whole team. Was there one that really stood out to you?
They kind of happen on a daily basis, you know. It was a really nice group of people, you know, and that's really important when you're working this hard and you're out in the elements. You know, if people aren't getting along together, that can be very unwelcome. But luckily, you know, everyone really bonded from, you know, the grassroots up, and we just had a wonderful team of people, wonderful team of actors as well. And we just, you know, we made the film, you know, as it should be done from the inside out, and that was really liberating to have that close relationship.
And what were you looking for in who would ultimately be your Snow White? Why did Kristen Stewart have that?
I think she's got this kind of, you know, the weight of the world's on her shoulders. She's got a lot of people looking at her, but she kind of handles it with this kind of rebellious diligence, and she's kind of defiant and very spirited. And she's got a very, you know, she's very heartfelt, and all of those qualities, you know, I wanted a contemporary Snow White to have. I didn't want them to be a wallflower or, you know, shrinking away as people moved around her. I wanted her to inspire others.
Yeah, she definitely did a really good job with that. And I think one thing you mentioned earlier that you wanted to bring masculinity into the role in the picture of Snow White. Was she a key element of that, or is that more the Huntsman, do you think?
No, I mean, I think, you know, they're both playing very strong women, not playing masculine characters. I think a lot of times when you get films with female leads in action films, they tend to take on all the things that men do. And I think what's great about this is that they just use every facet of what it is to be a woman in order to succeed. And so, you know, they're archetypally very masculine roles, but they're in this case very feminine.
Yeah, it's a nice balance there.
Yeah.
And I notice as well with this film and in your past work, the visual aspect is really important to you, and that's almost a character of itself.
Yeah.
How did you decide what visually would be the key parts of the Snow White story?
You know, you just read it and you respond to things. You know, whenever I read, I see things. You know, and so that's kind of when you start to read, the images start to come, and then you start to kind of fill them in as you live with them for a bit longer. So it's really, there's no kind of formula to it. It's just how you respond to things creatively.
What do you think was the main, I guess, most important thing in making a classic fairy tale, one that is so old? I think The Brothers Grimm was back in 1930-something when it was originally written.
1750s.
Wow, even older than that. And you've brought it into, you know, 2012.
Yeah, and also it predates that because it was written down by them. It wasn't actually written by them. It had been in existence in Western Europe for hundreds of years, probably before they wrote it down. So it's a story that's been around for hundreds of years. You know, and old stories don't disappear. You know, it's kept being. You know, the 1937 one was the Disney version. You know, they keep being reinterpreted, and you know, you have to find a modern way of doing it. But I think every time, you know, Disney was a very modern way of doing it in 1937, and I hope we're a modern way of doing it in 2012.
Do you think people appreciate that darker take on a classic story more so these days?
No, I mean, I think dark fairy tales are something we all love. We've all read them. We've all grown up with them. I think that. You know, I don't think we're any darker than the fairy tale. I think it's just that that's what fairy tales are. You know, they frighten us and they inspire us and they tell us something.
And just in our last question, what do you think the key message of this one is that you're wanting to really bring to the viewers?
I think there's many. I mean, the one I like is the rose blooming in defiance of the cold, which is really that, you know, when death is all around you, you must blossom in life because you don't live long.
Rupert, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Ha ha ha.